Hello, today the FinTech Times are at Money20 Europe in Amsterdam. My name's Tom, I'm a journalist, and today I'm lucky enough to be joined by Carpenter, CEO of TransactPay. Aaron, thank you very much for joining me. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Tom. Thanks for having me.
I think the best way for us to kick this off is really by delving into what it is your role sort of entails, and what can you tell us about TransactPay and its aims?
Thank you, Tom. So, as you said, I'm Aaron Carpenter. I'm the CEO of TransactPay. We're a bin sponsor, to use the industry term, I guess, but I describe us as an enabler of fintechs in the regulated payment space.
Fantastic. So if we get stuck straight into it, I think the best way to start is by asking you, do you think access to key banking infrastructure for fintechs has been as accessible as possible, or do you think more needs to be done in that area?
I think it's a great question, and I think the short answer is no. If I was to expand upon that a little bit, though, my view is that there's certainly not enough being done. There are a number of key players, and by that I mean credit institutions and banks, who are servicing fintech in what I believe to be the right way, but they're few and far between. I think that view is validated a little bit by what's about to hit us in terms of PSD3 and providing financial institutions with access to payment rails and so forth, or payment systems to be more accurate. But certainly I think that unfortunately lack of suitable banking support is still a challenge that many fintechs have.
Fantastic. So if we delve a little bit more into specifically TransactPay's role within the financial services ecosystem, what can you tell us about that?
So I think I alluded to it earlier. We're largely an enabler or facilitator of financial services. If we take our unregulated fintech customers as an example, which is a fair proportion of TransactPay's customer base, they will want to provide services such as a competitor or an early stage neobank. In order to do that, they would ordinarily need to become licensed in their own right. We enable them to start their business, to build a customer base, to really launch their proposition without having to become licensed themselves. We provide the licensing and card scheme coverage that enables that business to go forward and service its customers. And potentially that's long term, or in other instances that's at the early stage of their business, and potentially longer term they might choose to eventually go down the licensing route themselves. So we enable them on that journey. We also work quite closely with a lot of regulated financial institutions, whereby they may wish to provide current accounts, for example, but not the debit card that might access those current accounts. And we would provide the card or the credit card or credit line, but ultimately provide the aspect of the payment services that isn't really their area of speciality.
Okay, great. And obviously you spoke a lot about compliance there, and compliance is something that can be overwhelming to many fintechs. What are the sort of key challenges that you help address within compliance for fintechs?
So really it's the whole gamut. So our real area of specialism is we enable fintechs to build a business in a way that is compliant, not just for the short term, but for the long term. We give them a stable regulatory base upon which to build their business. So that would mean we would be helping them to develop the correct policies, procedures, utilize the correct tools and configure those tools correctly. And we will provide them with oversight and guidance for all of the regulatory and compliance needs that they may have.
Yeah, so obviously by taking the compliance piece off a fintech's plate, what are the major benefits that they can really enjoy from that?
I think that question actually indicates what the benefit of a bin sponsor is. If you're launching a new cool financial services product, your focus is going to be on customer acquisition, your marketing, the key USP that you have compared to the rest of the market. To do that whilst becoming au fait and comfortable with the regulatory environment, card scheme rules and so on is incredibly difficult and takes a lot of effort and time. By working together with a bin sponsor such as TransactPay, we take a lot of that heavy lifting away from you and allow you to focus on what it is you really need to do to make your business successful in the early stages.
Do you have any upcoming innovations or technologies that are going to help really increase accessibility to these sort of banking systems and solutions?
Absolutely. A recent development that is driven actually by the fact that we see a considerable gap in the market is we are now providing access to banking infrastructure, to payment rails via our new API. Historically, we've been more of a card issuer, but this very much indicates a move into account provision as well. That could, allow us to service customers in numerous verticals, be that providing payment accounts associated with credit, to even supporting supply chain financing companies with their cross-border payment needs. So yeah, we've very much been driven by what we see as an existing need in the market, but it's not been, as I see it today, adequately met by the banks in situ.
Yeah, and obviously, it's obviously a really important area, especially for fintechs to address. But moving on, I think one of the areas that we're looking at specifically this month is diversity, equity, and inclusion. How important is DE&I for TransactPay, and how have they sort of considered that within its operations?
Massively. I think that we're trying to grow a business in a very particular way, and in order to make sure that we stay on track, culture is incredibly important. Only in the last 18 months, we launched new corporate values with inclusivity and diversity at the very heart. It's something we feel very, very strongly about, both from a business perspective, but also from a staff retention and attraction point of view. We want to be an environment within which people want to work, regardless of where they come from.
Okay, and obviously that's a topic that's obviously hugely important for fintechs and beyond, and it's great to hear that it's such an important part of TransactPay sort of considerings and operations. And with that, thank you very much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of the Money 2020 conference.
Thanks for having me, Tom.